Handling. Car enthusiasts can go on and on about the subject of handling because it is so very vast. At Evo India, when we review cars, we prioritize the ride and handling because we're focused on the thrill of driving. Why is handling important? The reasons are twofold. First of all, fun. The amount of fun you can have in a car is directly proportional to how dynamically sound it is. Second, safety. The more stable a car is, the more easy it is to control, the safer you are and the less chance you are of getting into an accident. Today, we're talking about the handling of cars, more specifically about Hyundai's cars. Over the years, Hyundai has worked on the ride and handling of its cars and they've reached a really world-class level. Let's dive in and dig a little deeper.
In this video, we're going to be talking about the handling of Hyundai's cars with inputs from Sirish from the first drives.
Let's start here. The Hyundai Grand i10 Nios. Now the Nios was meant to be the successor to the older Grand i10, and like every new car, it came with a step up in terms of features and comfort and all of that. But for the Nios, Hyundai has worked heavily on the suspension too. Here's what Sirish had to say at the first drive.
Compared to the earlier Grand i10, the Nios is a big improvement. It is a nice, cool, funky looking small car. It's compact, it is nice to drive in the city, very maneuverable, very easy to drive, torquey engine. Now the main question between the Swift and any of its rivals is, are they fun to drive? The Nios is a great city car which you can also take out onto the highways. We are driving it here on the highways and it is planted, it is stable, it does not do anything funny. There's nothing really to fault. The Nios is another great addition to the Hyundai range.
There was a point in time where hatchbacks were looked at solely as budget cars. Not anymore. Enthusiasts are now turning to hatchbacks to get their thrills, which is why cars like the Nios now have turbo petrol engines. And when you dial up the engine, you've also got to dial up the chassis. And the Nios does that. When we compared it to the Maruti Suzuki Swift, its main rival, it came out on top because of how quick it is in the corners and how well it deals with our roads. It's composed on the highway and it doesn't mind being chucked around a little bit. Now let's talk about the Hyundai Venue. The Venue, it was a ground-up development for a segment that Hyundai was never even present in. And this, it shows in the Venue's dynamic capabilities. We first drove the Venue in the hills of Guwahati. And those hills, with their combination of bad roads as well as twisties, were a great test of the Venue's capabilities. Here's what Sirish had to say at the first drive.
I would think steering would be too light, too flighty, but it weights up at speed. So at speed, when you're pushing down corners, there is good weight to the steering. Now gone are the days when Hyundai used to float and wallow and do all sorts of crazy things. The Venue, it has a European sophistication to its ride and handling. Around corners, it grips very well and the body control is really good. For a compact SUV that rides well, it does not roll much. There's hardly any body roll. I really like it. It's so grown up and it is so much fun to drive.
And that is the key to what makes the Venue so good. It is an SUV, but it handles like a hatchback. Tall cars, they're inherently supposed to be bad around corners. That's physics. But the Venue, it does well to contest that fact. Around corners, it's actually a lot of fun. Even on the highway, the Venue, it feels like a large SUV. It feels very composed and very stable. This Venue diesel, it's been my long-termer for the last few months and I really enjoy bringing it out of the city. The Hyundai Verna is the oldest nameplate amongst this lot. And Hyundai has been evolving it over the years to a point where it's properly polished. This new Verna, it gets a revised suspension and we recently drove it in the hills around Pune. Here's what Sirish had to say about it.
In terms of the chassis, what they have done is tweaked the damper settings and the spring settings. So what they've really improved on is the rebound. If you go over a bump, over a speed breaker, the nose, it no longer pogos, it stays planted, and you can drive it quite fast over bad roads. The suspension compliance is actually pretty good. It is getting more and more European in terms of its feel. So all the ripples in the road, you do feel it, but it also is absorbent. It does take it in its stride, and the handling has definitely improved. The steering feel has also improved. It's not like the wheels are doing one thing, you are doing another thing. It is now more connected. That feel is there, and you can lean on it, you can push it, and you can carry a fair bit of cornering speeds. The Verna is actually good fun to throw around corners, and you actually enjoy driving this car.
The Verna's pliant suspension is actually a great blend of comfortable and sporty. The front end, it bites well and grips well too. The fact that it deals with our roads so well means you can actually drive it faster over bad patches. Sedans like the Verna will always handle better than SUVs, and that makes this Verna Turbo one of the best handling Hyundais out there right now. Now let's come to the last one here, the Hyundai Creta. The Creta, it was a bestseller, and there's good reason for that. But this new Creta, the updated one, it continues the older one's stunning form. Now the design is one of the big changes on the new Creta, but the other big change is to the suspension. It feels much more planted and composed on Indian roads. The old one, it had a tendency to feel soft and slightly squishy. No more. Here's what Sirish had to say the first time he drove it.
This is a good chassis. It stays planted. The ride quality is slightly on the firmer side at low city speeds, but that has its benefits. So when you have a slightly bumpy road, this does not wallow, this does not float. This feels connected. It stays planted. Very European in terms of its feel, and I really like that. Hyundai, they are making cars that are good fun to drive, engaging cars, and the Creta is in that mold.
People buy SUVs to be able to tackle the bad roads of our country with ease, and the Creta, it gives you the confidence to do so. Recently we put the Creta up against its rivals and even SUVs half a segment above the Creta, and it came out the winner. The Creta, it feels stable, it feels planted. Small bumps that would have unsettled it in the past are now dealt with confidently. From where I'm sitting, I feel like I'm driving a comfortable, composed SUV. The combination of the good ride, the sophistication of it, and the directness of the steering make the Creta one of the best SUVs you can buy under 20 lakh rupees. So as you can see, Hyundai has drastically improved the handling of its cars. Cars that were notorious for soft suspensions and light steerings, they're a thing of the past. Now you have cars that put a smile on your face no matter where you drive them.
Subscribe to the Evo India channel and hit the bell icon to keep pace with the thrill of driving.